Hey, everybody. This is Breaking the Cage. Sorry you're hearing my voice. I've been fighting this little flu for, what, 2 weeks now? So I'm sorry if I sound a little hoarse, but that's the best I got going on here. Anytime eclipses come in, it tends to knock me out. It just happens to be the way it works with my astrology and stuff. It tends to really knock me out. Now, this is Breaking the Cage Astrology TV for November 5th through the 11th. And for the last 2 days, I've been getting downloads while I've been sleeping. And anyway, I'm looking at my camera. Something seems like it's off, but whatever. What Spirit is telling me as we come into this week and as we move forward throughout the rest of this year is we need to really become fortified, because we are not right now. As a spiritual unit, we are not unified. What they're showing me is like a fuel gauge, but it's actually for like a plane. And what they're showing me is different areas, kind of like when you think of like a graph of a pie, and the pie has different colors, and it's showing where some is at a higher perspective, you know, uh uh like a big portion would be in this perspective, then is showing another perspective and another perspective. And what they're saying is we're not fortified in any one direction right now, and spiritually as a unit we need to, not just as the United States because of what's going on with the war and so forth, but in general, as a spiritual unit, we need to become more fortified. We need to become more of a unit of one. And we're not seeing the bigger picture. They're saying we're not really looking at our deeper reasoning for being here at this point. We're sure we're all playing the part. We're all in the game of playing the part as far as, you know, be kind to one another, trying to be uplifting and so forth. But we're doing it in our own in our own individual ways. We're not seeing the bigger, deeper reasoning here. There's too much separation. There's too much within the spiritual community itself of fighting. Like, well, this person has learned a little bit about something, so of course this person knows everything, and so we must all follow that person. Or this person's learned something, but then they got this wrong, so da 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 da. They're saying, no, remember, all of us, and I want to say all of us are small, but all of us have pieces of information that are right, and all of us have pieces of information that are wrong. That's part of growth. It's part of learning. They're also saying the reason we need to become more fortified as a spiritual unit as we are growing and we are coming through this energy, through the rest of this year, is because they're saying in a form, it's not just individual growth. Now, this is Larry. Yeah, I'm about to speak about you here in just a second, because what they're giving me has a lot to do with what Larry always preaches. And they're saying, in one form, our unity or our lack of unity and our separation and fighting amongst ourselves of who's right and who's wrong and who's better and who's not and who's this and who's that and who has the right information. Like I said, because they're saying some of us, we have all of the pieces, but we don't have all of the pieces connected correctly, and pieces of every one of us have pieces that are right. And they're saying as we become more of a fortified unit, we come together, we stop fighting amongst each other, and we get more on that spiritual, deeper reasoning for being. We get away from that confusion side within our intuitive, spiritual, creative, and magical energy. And we step more in to that higher dimensions and bring it back to the 3D in one form, we are definitely finding our own spiritual growth. But this is where I'm going to start speaking about what Larry speaks about, because of, in another form, they're also saying you're also, well, you're spiritually growing, but you're staying connected with that 3D, the 3D idea, the 3D need for ego, the 3D connection that keeps us separated. You're also spiritually maturing that hive mind. You're making that hive mind work against you because you're not in the right dimensional perspective as you're starting to grow. Then what they're showing me is that as we become higher in that higher dimensional energy, a lot of this has to do with actually breathing. That's why I was putting in the meme, just breathe in. But I'm going to explain it to you, because they're saying that deeper reasoning for being in that higher dimensional perspective, it starts to actually make our energy here in the 3D of that higher vibrational energy more dense. And we are actually stepping, and this is where it's a little weird, and this is probably where you'll end up seeing Larry start correcting me, because they're saying this is starting to step into that ghost particle energy. And the ghost particle energy, and the way that they are explaining it to me, is because the ghost particle energy can't be captured. Now, hear me. We have been talking about the fact that you go through rebirth over and over again. You are constantly in that hive. You are constantly in that cell, rebirthing again and again and again, back to the same jail cell of the three-dimensional perspective. This is what they were saying. Technically, the ghost particle energy has a lot to do with what could harm us, but in the perspective of how they're putting it, is it brings us closer to breaking away from that hive mind, breaking away from technically the spiritual LoJack, the spiritual connection of where they keep you jailed in this prison. And this has everything to do with bringing that higher vibrational energy into a dense energy. But what they're showing me is this has a lot to do, especially right now, with the way that Scorpio energy and our astrology is communicating with the Taurus. And this is because Scorpio energy, typically when people think of Scorpio energy, they think of the sexual organs. But that's not entirely true. Let me have a sip of my drink. Because Scorpio energy is all about birth, death, and rebirth. It's all about the magic of the ability to rebirth. It's fertility in a form. And what most people don't realize when we get into the actual blueprint of the body and the physical body itself, Scorpio, the nose itself, and your ability to breathe in through that nose, that is Scorpio energy. Then it goes back down into the actual sexual organs. And with what we're seeing with the planetary energies here in Scorpio now, versus how it is definitely communicating with the rest of the board, and how it's definitely communicating with the throat chakra itself, is speaking to us of what spirit is giving me. And what they're saying is, when you are breathing in, when we're coming from that ghost particle perspective, we're getting into the atoms perspective, and we're getting into the cell membrane perspective. I have said a million times that the outside of the human body is a positive charge. But once it crosses that cell membrane and it gets into the inside of the body, it is a negative charge. And you start looking at the energy from everything that you've brought in from the outside world, your emotions, your physical energies that you bring into you and you store in your gut, once it gets past that cell membrane and that energy is inside, you've got to remember law of attraction. Like equals like. So negative charge likes negative charge, and it makes it harder to actually transmutate it, transform that, and get it back out of the body in a positive way. This has a lot to do with when we think of static electricity, when we start getting into atoms, because it's technically what we are, millions of atoms of electrons, neutrons, and protons put together. And what is that? A negative charge, a positive charge, and the electron, which is the equal, I believe. I might have it slightly off, but there is the one that kind of goes in between and can work with. The equalizer is what they just said. When we get into the way that the body is working, you have to understand that when you are breathing in through the mouth, when you are actually breathing in through the mouth, Spirit says that we are a bunch of mouth breathers. That when we get into learning, to get into your spiritual path, to get into meditation, to get into, connecting with the divine energy, with that source energy, that energy that you are automatically connected to, and stepping back into it. Why do they tell you to meditate and breathe in through your nose? Hold it and then exhale. They're saying technically you should not be breathing through your mouth in the first place. When you're breathing in through your nose has the ability to break away particles that could be ill that you're breathing in. And as you're breathing in through your mouth, you get more toxic energies, which actually in the long run harm us, including when you inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth. This is why they say we're a bunch of mouth breathers, and we breathe in wrong, which is also part of how we are unified in the wrong way, and what's keeping us from being as dense as we could be in a higher vibrational frequency, which then keeps us from being able to be connected to or tracked as we start to break away from that hive mind. And they're explaining that the hydrogen that you are breathing in, that gets stuck in you, that's in the water particles, that's your Virgo, no, that's your Scorpio energy. They are saying that water molecules are 70% in the body, in the water of your body, but it's 10% of the body itself. You're breathing this in through your mouth and through causing natal congestion, more natal congestion, because it gets in through the toxic energies coming through the mouth. Something about the nose hairs and stuff help to make sure those toxic energies aren't coming in. And it also helps cause problems with your circulation. Your circulation has to do with your Scorpio energy as well, even though technically it has more to do with Aquarius, but it has to do with that recycling, that rebirthing, that making you of a more dense energy, more higher vibrational. And what they're saying is technically it's the neutron that hits the nucleus of the body that creates the hydrogen in the body. A proton is the positive charge that the negative, the neutron, then starts to connect with, which causes ionization, leading it to more damage. The proton itself is 65% of the body. Protons and neutrons together equal the quartz, which is the mass of the body. The electrons is what you need in the body. The electrons is actually why you need that oxygen, because without it, you're causing, and I've been speaking about this for the last 4 or 5 weeks, you're causing more carbon monoxide in the body along with the hydrogen, and it is causing more damage, more more damage and more problems with you. It causes more CO poisoning, which technically is overseen and noticed mainly during the winters and when you have colds and where you're using heaters and so forth. That false energy bringing in a bigger, stronger connection, forcing the CO poisoning and keeping you breathing through your mouth, not your nose, not through the higher dimensional energies, keeping you connected to what is healthier and keeps that carbon monoxide in there, keeping it connected to the neutrons, the nucleus, the neutron transmitter, and the nervous system, and causing all of this to actually be more of a negative charge, keeping you stuck in that low jack of making sure that you don't rise high enough to continue to go back to the same jail cell over and over and over again. And they're saying a lot of this has to do with us mindfully stepping into that spiritual connection on that unity level, but then on an individual level, we're not doing it well either. On our own individual level, we are not truly getting into our deeper reasoning for being, and we need to stop being these mouth breathers and start stepping into how we breathe when we're doing this meditation and so forth, and bringing in healthier energy into our body, making us more dense. Now, Larry, I'm going to go back and read what you were saying, but if I do it now, I'm going to get stuck. So that's why I said it that way, because I wanted to make sure to give Larry credit, because as soon as they started talking to me, I was like, this is the stuff Larry's always talking about. They are saying life is breathing in energy. And remember what you are breathing in. Lower vibration, higher vibration. Coming in through your mouth is a lower vibration. Coming in through your nose is a higher vibration, period. It is stepping into the mouth, opens up the energies for the lower dark body entities, in which that, like I said, that Larry is always speaking about. And they want us to learn to step away from that perspective and start moving into the higher vibrational way of healing ourselves. This is when you think of shamans or you think of energy healing work, you know, and people doing Reiki. We know the mind is the most powerful thing. Just like I know I can remove this illness, this simple connection that I have, because I've been connected in my mind somehow into allowing it to exist. And I just have to get into having the time off of the free will and the mindful energy to remove this from my body. And that's what we do when we get into Reiki healing, when we're getting into shamanistic work. We're removing entities, we're removing particles of energies that have come in that are harmful to us. But it's always easier for someone who is in this playing field, who is in this energy, to get into that consciousness and do that work on others. When you're not feeling well, it's harder to get your mind tapped into that higher dimension and remove it from yourself. This is why it takes time. But when we get into the fact of remembering, we are nothing more than a mind. This three-dimensional prison is something that we create, and we have to remember to stop thinking of it and in our creation and recreate. I've said a million times, step away from the hive mind and start stepping into your own main frame. And this is what we are talking about here. We're talking about actually disconnecting from the hive through bringing our energy into a denser energy, stepping away from those lower entities that we breathe in, these lower fragmentations and lower particles and intrusions that we bring into our life on accident, easily, naturally, because we haven't been trained to stop doing it. And this is why I'm giving you it in that perspective, because that's where spirit is directing me. We've got to stop thinking small, and we've got to stop thinking of pick at this one and pick at that one, and this one's right and that one, and ultimately dividing. This has come together now. Breathe as one, breathe as a unit. Stop being mouth breathers. Start being your higher dimensional selves, and breathe in the healthier energy, not the angrier, as what they just said. And change your life through this form. When I get into the blueprint itself, you have Chiron is on the frontal lobe, which is how we take action. Technically, when we get into how we process everything, then it's how we take action. Then you get into the north node, and it is on the temporal part of the brain. So this is as well as the jaw and the teeth. So this is right off the bat, we're talking about how the brain is processing the information that we are receiving and the three-dimensional perspective, and then what we are doing with it. Then it gets into the jaw and the teeth on how we communicate. Not to mention, you have Mercury moving this week and Venus moving this week. Okay, you've got Jupiter, which is literally sitting on the jugular. Then you have Uranus, which is on the occipital lobe, which is the zeal point. So, like I said, when we get to this energy of Mars and Taurus, you're talking about Jupiter on the jugular, right here in your breathing. Then you're talking about Uranus, both of them still in retrograde, on the zeal point of how you connect to being in that higher dimensional energy or being of spiritual attack, and allowing these kind of energies into your bodies and into your life. And this is your independence, your individuality, your uniqueness, your freedom, taking the power back, taking the power of your body back, getting out of that hive mind perspective and starting to be in control of it for real, because the body is nothing more than what your brain has told you that it is, and working with that, healing it. When we get into Vista, we come down into Cancer, and it's literally connecting with the spine, and it supports the neck itself. So it's getting into the connection and the nervous system and what's being sent in conversation from that zeal point, from that brain, through those chakras and down through the back. It also supports the heart. It's supporting the rib cage. That part of the spine is. It's supporting that and the neck, and connecting it to how well you're breathing in and how protected you are. This is the key. The keys to the knowledge that you need to keep yourself in a healthy lifestyle, a healthy development, a healthy growth. It is the fire of the soul and connecting with that. Then when we get into Virgo, Virgo is got Lilith here, Juno here, and Venus. But Venus is going to be leaving and moving into Libra. You have Lilith and Juno, which is on the appendix, the large intestines, and the abdominal cavity, while Venus is on the kidney and the liver as it moves from Virgo into Libra. Then we're getting into Libra with the South Node in Scorpio. The South Node in the kidneys, Pallas in the circulatory system. You've got the Sun, Mars, Mercury, and Ceres in Scorpio. Scorpio is, like I said, again, you're talking about your root chakra, your sacral chakra, your solar plexus, and how it is connecting with what you are breathing in. So how you and what you are setting in your foundation as you move forward. And how strong is that foundation according to the vibrational density of what you're breathing in, from the higher or the lower vibrational frequencies. And this is why I said, stop being such a mouth breather. Learn to close your mouth. Learn to Breathe in and exhale through your nose more. Stay connected to the higher vibrations. Stay connected to something that's going to bring healthier energy into the body. You've got the sun and Mars here in that energy, in that nose energy right now. You have, sun and Mars is in the reproductive energy. You have that Mercury and Sirius. Sirius, not Sirius star, Sirius is all about nurturing or neglecting. What is being nurtured? What is being neglected? How is it being communicated with? With Mercury, as these energies start to move out of Scorpio and into Sagittarius. So it's going from that 8th house and into the 9th house, into your morals, into your deeper reasoning for being, into your spiritual connection. And we're learning into how is it we're communicating with ourselves, and is that doing us any justice here, along with how are we connecting as a spiritual community and unit, not just here in the United States, but across the freaking board. Because what they're saying is the divide is too big. The divide is too big, and that's what's going to keep us from being a healthy moving forward. You have to get in the right frame of mind. We have to come back together. We have to stop picking everything apart. But first off, we've got to stop doing it with our own selves and causing issues within our own bodies. And I am talking about me here. I've got a cold too. So this is even within me. I'm not acting like I'm better than anybody else. We all have these problems. We're learning how to step away from the hive mind and to retake access of our own power, our own body, our own lives, and start to break away from this three-dimensional caging, so to speak. Again, you have Pholos and Pluto, which are in the knees. You have Aquarius, which has technically the Shaman, which is Cardi Claw. You have Saturn at 0 degrees, moving like not moving, meaning we are really looking at reevaluating all the rules, walls, and boundaries. It's like they're not there. It's like they've gone into silent turn off. Let's restart. It's like a computer. This is where your Saturn energy has been. Your Saturn energy retrograded back to the very first 0 degrees of Pisces. And like you just shut the light off. Not you, but in general. And it's moving so slowly. It's creeping. And in Pisces energy, Saturn's rules, walls, boundaries, re-justifying it, trying to understand it. It's not a very strong place for it. And it's like we've turned the lights off on it. Why do you think all this shit's happening right now? It's the 12th house. Grave, sorrow, shame, blame, insecurity, lies, skeletons in the closet, shit flying out of everywhere. It's what I started telling you 6 months ago when I started saying it's like welcome to Amsterdam. Hold on. Meaning everything you learned just got shut off, and it's time to reevaluate that. Take a good look at it as we start to come back online and rebuild that foundation. What did you learn in the last 6 months about your rules, walls, and boundaries, about your denial, about your grave, sorrow, shame, blame, and insecurities, about your attachments that you still hold on to, about being attached to people, places, and things, attached to ideas and perspectives? Where have you been being triggered over and over again? Because it's about to come back online. It's now direct, and it's going to go through that all over again, reprocessing. Then it's there with Nessus, which is technically the ancestral curse. And with Neptune, your magic. All in retrograde. So we're definitely looking at what kind of sacred ground is your root. And why are you still setting your root directly from the root chakra? This is about your breathing process, what you are breathing in, your circulation of restoring the body, of rebirthing, of upgrading, becoming a higher, more dense energy that cannot be trapped. This is about stepping into that higher perspective. Where are we setting our foundation here? Where are we setting our strengths here? Where are we looking at the attachments here that have caused issues within our communication with ourselves and others and our relationships? And how is it that we allow these relationships to continue to exist? And why? Why do we make excuses for them? There are several challenges, but I'm going to start out with the positives as I start to get into the actual astrology for the week. The moon is going to be moving through Leo, then Virgo, then Libra, coming into Scorpio as we go through Saturday and Sunday in the weekend. As we go through the moon here in Leo, it's going to first start questioning the South Node. I mean, not questioning. It's going to start having a good conversation with Pallas and the South Node. So this is your creative energy speaking to your relationship zone, speaking to what is in these relationships. The South Node, though, is holding on to the same ideas of, I'm comfortable here, I'm not ready to change. That's not the good part. This is talking about, where are you in denial? Speaking in about where are you in denial, plus strategically thinking, using that Athena, the warrior goddess attitude, and overcoming, making your tribe better, your tribe stronger, and really paying attention to if that's your tribe or if it's your cage. And we're talking about creatively rebirthing it or breaking it, because a lot of this has to do with attachments, like I said. But this is about having the ability to do that. As you go into the moon moving through Virgo, it's going to start speaking to Scorpio energy in general. That's that Mars, that Mercury, that Sun, that Sirius energy. This is about rebirthing, setting those new rules, walls, and boundaries. What makes it work? What makes it work for both parties? Or is there anything that's going to make it work for both parties? Joint efforts, joint resources. This is, what keeps the tribe healthy, or shows you that it's not a healthy tribe, period. And it's dealing with the mundane tasks that take part. Your moon, your emotional connection, is connecting with this. Then it's speaking with Mercury as it leaves that 8th house that goes directly into the 9th, into your higher morals, into your higher reasoning for being, as we come up on the weekend. Now, there has been a sextile, 3 sextiles that have been connecting for almost 2 freaking months now. This is opportunity, 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 if you've been seizing it. But it's growing now, giving you even more to seize, if you can seize the moment. Is that Uranus in the 2nd house, speaking about coming into your power, being physically in your power, in your body, the entity of who and what you are, taking that power, that identification, invention of yourself, authenticity, speaking into your freedom, your free will. It's been speaking to Neptune about what is it that we have to step away from, heal, and create of new, going into Pluto, bringing it back into the outer world and showing the outer world where you're making these changes, who you are not anymore and who you are now, and what is and is not acceptable. That has been there for the last 2 months. But now it's connecting with that Mercury energy as it comes through that Scorpio and into Sagittarius. So the communication is literally, and Sirius, What are you healing? What are you neglecting? Along with communication with yourself, with your guides, with your higher perspective, with that source energy, with your morals, with your higher knowledge. Are you going to use that communication to better the situation and to actually step more fluently into the situation, creating the ability to make this change work for you? And then it is speaking directly into Venus, communicating, caressing that sixth house, which is your daily mundane tasks, your people, places, and things, what you are a part of every single day, and how that mundane activity is the most powerful part of your manifestation, because you do it so fluently, you overlook it. So this is talking about tweaking it just a little bit more and bringing that unified energy into the outer world and changing things for you for the better. But this is definitely sextiles, meaning you have to step into the opportunity. You have to seize the moment. You have to harness it and ride that bitch. Because if you don't, it's like they say, you can have a dream, but you have to chase the dream. That dream's never going to chase you. So this is about chasing that dream, bringing it into reality. You have that extra sensitivity to caress it, to communicate it, to correct it, and bring it into your daily tasks. And you're communicating it from higher perspectives and bringing it into, look at who I am now, not who I was. This is the way it's going to be from here on out. And make those changes. It's there for you. You also have a powerful trine that is growing, which is Uranus, Pluto, and Venus. Venus, like I said, is moving out of that mundane energy, of that Virgo energy, and is moving into the seventh house. So it is going from, did we learn anything about your daily groups, memberships, communities, your people, places, and things, what you are a part of, what you allow your energy to be a part of on a daily perspective, people, places, and things. And when we connect it to our relationship with it, this is saying Venus is going to speak to you about whether it is healthy or unhealthy. And are we taking responsibility, and are we going to continue to keep this energy and build upon it, or is it an attachment situation that we need to let go of? And like I said, Venus is not about love. She speaks to you about your communication. She speaks to you about, if it is something that is healthy for you and makes you feel good, or if it's something that's actually done you wrong. She speaks to you about betrayal. She lets you know why it hurt. Venus does. And as we come into our relationships, you have it speaking with Uranus, your independence, your individuality, uniqueness, freedom, the possession and the power and the manifestation, as well as the money, all of that of your life. But it's all coming into how you're communicating with that Pluto. Death, decay, and destruction for renewal, rebirth, and regeneration. This is taking the power back. This is owning your energy, owning it in the way of going, you know what, I'm responsible for everything I create. And so therefore, with me taking that responsibility, I'm really going to step into outside of my comfort zone, and I'm going to make it become what I want. The opportunity's there. Stepping into something new and bringing and breathing in new life. Breathing in what will make you feel good by having the balls to step away from what's comfortable. But this has everything to do with that daily activity. Venus is all over this week. Even though you've got so much going on with the sun, and not the sun, but with Scorpio and with Taurus, Everything's either targeting Venus or targeting Pluto. Making the change to come back to who you really are. And are you courageous enough to get through your uncomfortability and love yourself by realizing where you have it? And see where that sensitivity has served you versus where it hasn't. You've got that Uranus, Pluto, and Venus is going to have the moon joining it as well this week. So it's stepping into your emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical energies. Truthfully, that Venus and the moon coming together, speaking with Pluto and Uranus about showing the world who you are, or showing the world who can manipulate you, really. You have Jupiter and Lilith, which are getting along great. This is that 6th house, your daily tasks, your mundane tasks, what you allow people to have access to. That's what all of this is coming down to. What parts of you do they have access to, and how much are you giving them access to? Jupiter is that 2nd house, saying they have that power to push you around, to redirect your life, or no, I'm not going to give you that power because I claim it for myself. And Jupiter is manifestation. It's manifestation, stepping into the higher perspectives, but we're trying not to do it through an ego-based form. We're trying to do it through a soul-based form. You have Saturn, which is getting along great with the South Node and Pluto in that 7th house. The South Node is everything you got to learn in order to, everything that you're comfortable with that's kept you from moving forward. It's the stagnant energy, the relationships in the stagnant energy, and where we're not being wise enough to make the changes. Where we're not letting Athena's owl help us. This is Saturn at 0 degrees, lights turned off. Do you have the courage and the power, the know-how to believe in yourself and to know what's best? Because you do. It's just, do you believe? You have Neptune, which is getting along great with that 8th house, and with Mercury as it moves into into Sagittarius this week. So it's the magic of rebirthing, the magic of birthing something brand new, if you have the power to believe and create and do so. The sun is here, Mars is here, the Mercury and Ceres. This is learning to step into what you need, step into what is healthy, nourish what needs to be nourished in the relationships, resetting boundaries, resetting new foundations, resetting the tribe and its rules and its unification and its communication into higher perspectives, and allowing us to move forward. But it's speaking with Neptune, which is magic. So it can recreate the same screwed up shit if you don't or aren't willing to nurture what needs to be nurtured. Because Ceres clutters that with neglect. You can either nurture or you can neglect. You can't do both. And when you avoid doing something, you're actually not doing something. When you're not ready to make a decision, you're stepping away from something and not doing it. So this is illuminating the tribes itself, the relationships you have with yourself, and where you're taking it. These are very positive energies, but they are all speaking to you about you have to step into them. Like I said, you can have a dream, but a dream is never going to chase you. You have to chase the dream. Now, where it becomes more difficult this week is the challenges. And I say it that way for anybody who doesn't follow me, because I don't necessarily follow them as aspects the way that all astrologers do. Let me have a sip of my drink. Because I follow them in the way of how spirit directs me to see them, which I do speak to them about the aspects, but I just speak to them as challenges in general when they're more on the negative perspective. You have Jupiter and Uranus, which is Jupiter and Uranus, the second house of Taurus. Earth energy, grounded energy, the bull for all the right or the wrong reasons. Standing in Jupiter's abundance in retrograde, which if you are not learning what the retrograde is doing, then it will be working against you. This is understanding what that higher knowledge is, what the higher perspective is that they're trying to teach you, or your soul is trying to teach you at this time about your self-worth, self-value, self-esteem, about being in power of your own energy, about controlling your own manifestation, controlling and being in that power. Speaking with Uranus, your independence, your individuality, your uniqueness, freedom, your authenticity. This is technically being in possession of your soul energy, grounded here on earth, breaking away from that hive mind, reclaiming all stance, or the very exact opposite of it, losing it and being manipulated. And who are you allowing to have access to you? Because it's speaking directly with that Scorpio energy. This is birth, death, rebirth. This is transformation of the tribe. This is where we're speaking about joint resources, joint finances. This is the relationship that you are in with Sun here, the Mars, Sun here, Mars here, Sirius here, nurturing or neglecting, the inner warrior, the inner SWAT team, and Scorpio, yes, ready to go. The sun illuminating the tribe and the relationship, as well as who you are in that tribe. How are you seen by them as well as by your own self? And then you've got Mercury leaving that energy and going into Sagittarius, the higher perspective, your higher morals. And this is saying that they're not getting along. This is saying the tribe wants to do what it wants to do, and you want to do what you want to do, and it's butting heads. This is saying the bull in the china shop. And again, this has everything to do with breathing in through the nose. Scorpio, the nose energy, the higher perspective, not the mouth breather. True circulation, true higher vibration. And then what are we going to allow to happen? How are we going to make these changes? I read it as I do as challenges because it's not that it can't be done. It's just not an easy done. It's something you have to work at. It's something you have to want. And like I said, we have to come back together as a unity here. But we also have to make sure we're not being plowed over. So this is really being deep and honest with where we're going with this. What are we nurturing? What are we neglecting? What's an attachment? What's not? Chiron in that first house and the North Node is not getting along with Pluto. Death, decay, and destruction in the outer world, showing the authority of the outer world. Are you in any of that authority, or does the authority of the outer world have control and power and possession over you to tell you what you will and will not do? And then it is speaking directly again with that South Node and Pallas. Athena, the warrior goddess, in the relationship zone. Are you two willing to make peace in an area where peace should not be? And what I mean by that is, are you two willing to settle when if you just stood up and said, no, I'm willing to work with you here, but you're not going to have it all your way. Because the Libra energy is all about connecting, is about justice, is all about harmony and balance. And a lot of times in this energy, we're afraid to lose the ones we love. So we end up connecting to something we should not be connecting with. That is neglection. And where we are not nurturing the relationship properly and actually finding a new healthy beginning, we continue to hold on to what we shouldn't be holding on to. This is why it's talking to Chiron and the South Node. How and what you are breathing into your life. It's the throat chakra. How are you expressing yourself? How are you communicating with the change that needs to happen? We're talking about Chiron, the wounded healer, in the character, claiming the power of the character. Speaking with, showing the outer world who you are now, not who you once were, and where you're making these changes. So this is asking you to truly step into nurturing yourself and the relationship into a healthy beginning, and stop holding on to past judgments, past attachments that have gotten you nowhere in the past. You have Neptune, that 12th house, which is not getting along with Venus in any way, shape, or form, as Venus moves from the 6th house to the 7th. Who are you allowing to have access to you? What people, places, and things have access to you? And how much access are you giving them? Are you giving them enough access? We are talking about Neptune here in the 12th house, to breathe life into your life, to breathe their manipulation into your life, to breathe their agenda into your life? Or are you being responsible for what you're allowing in your life and saying yes or no? And like I said, this is Venus. It's going to be uncomfortable because it's something you have to grow into nurturing or neglecting. And lastly, you have Lilith with Juno in that 6th house, speaking to Saturn, which I already said, lights are more or less off here. In the very beginning of Pisces, it's a free-for-all. There are no rules, walls, and boundaries right now. Everything's just been shut off. We're going into Mercury, into your higher morals, your higher perspectives, your psychic connection, and then over to Uranus. So all of this has to do with, can you set the boundaries when there is no boundaries there? Like I said, it's been shut off, like the purge. Can you step into the the wisdom of Athena, the warrior goddess, and her owl? Can you step into who has access to you? And are you truly in your power? Are you taking responsibility? Are you communicating from that higher perspective? And are you taking the power back? Are you allowing any and everyone to have access to you? It comes down to, are your lights off? Are you connected into that lower vibration? Or are you going to flip the switch? I love you guys. I will see you next week. Bye.